Hello, my name is Peter Mulroy. I'm the Secretary General of FCI. We are here in Marrakech, Morocco for the 55th FCI annual meeting. And I am here with Mr. Qamar Saleem. Mr. Qamar Saleem is the president of the SME Finance Forum, just promoted. Qamar, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, Peter. It's a pleasure to be here. I just took over SME Finance Forum. It's a G20 initiative. It was launched in 2012, and it's really a convening body to stimulate SME finance globally. So we've been in existence for over 10 years. We have like 240 members across 80 countries, which cover 190 countries in terms of coverage. Our member network supports 33 million SMEs, does $140 billion of SME finance. So really, I think we are the network in terms of getting SMEs access to finance, and we try and enable it through our partner member institutions. So I've been with IFC for 11 years, and before that I spent 20 years in banking. So it feels like coming back home and really looking back into the trade space that I championed in my banking life.
Well, congratulations on your promotion. I wanted just to ask you, because of course we're here in Marrakech to launch obviously the UNIDROIT factoring model law, the FCI Legal Study, and also the IFC World Bank Regulatory Guide on Factoring. And I was hoping you can tell the audience, what is this about? Why did you do it, and what's the purpose?
See, I think from what we've seen globally is that a lot of times the factoring regimes and the regulatory regimes are left to the domestic, at the domestic level. And what it does is three things. First of all, when you start comparing the global network and the policies and regimes across the world, it creates inconsistencies and it's inharmonious. So from a global standpoint, it becomes very difficult to kind of decipher the different aspects that need to be in place for a robust factoring and supply chain network. Secondly, even at the domestic level, it creates distortions and it lowers the impact because there are inconsistencies with respect to what needs to be in place. So I think, and especially with respect to the private law and the regulatory requirements that need to be in place, there are conflicts that further increase the potential factoring and supply chain finance can have. So I think that was really the main premise when we saw there's so many inconsistencies. We felt, I think we need a knowledge guide which is practical, which gives practical insights and gives concrete recommendations. So hence we set forth in putting together this knowledge guide which complements the model law in many ways, that it gives practical guidelines to policymakers to see how they can have the right and the best approaches, how they can remove and minimize the distortions that could come between the private law and the regulatory regimes, as well as gives them a framework and a toolkit that they can build on. So the knowledge guide is not just, it's consistent of 6 main chapters, but more importantly, it gives examples as well as, best practice examples that can be leveraged going forward. So I feel it very neatly complements the model law, giving industry some practical insights, examples on how to set up the right regimes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the content. Maybe just a few examples of some of the things that a central banker will learn when they read it. It's about factoring and about what should be implemented.
See, I think one thing we are seeing is increasingly globally, factoring law is something that is being adopted, in addition to local regulatory regimes. So I think it talks about some of those aspects. Then it talks about prudential regulations that sit outside of the regulatory regimes, and the central banks know how to, not just from a regulatory perspective, but also from a capital adequacy perspective, what they need to have in place. So then they will learn about supervision, what kind of supervision tools they need to have in place, So I think it gives more practical insights into looking at, overall supervision elements that need to be in place. So it is going deeper into the local policies, which are not from a regulatory standpoint also, but from a central bank standpoint also, that they need to have in place. Responsible finance is another area. So I think it goes into some of these areas that typically reform agenda will not go into.
Perfect. My last question, just what is your view in terms of how it, let's say, influences or how it can support the model law on factoring and the FCI legal guide? What do you see in terms of how this plays a part in the others?
It's very interesting. I was listening to the presentation on the FCI Legal Study, and I felt, it clearly filled out was a missing part of the puzzle.
Yeah,
so I really was quite intrigued in how that was done. So maybe I'll talk about that first, because I've seen you've expanded the coverage from 27 countries to 91 countries. There were 17 different areas that question goes into, which goes into the intricacies that exist at a local level and then combines it at a global level. And I think it also allows us to have a benchmark. I think you can easily use this as a toolkit to benchmark. So I think from that standpoint, I think it really fills out a gap. So I really see it at three levels. The law coming in, really establishing the overall framework, the knowledge guide coming in, giving more practical insights, and the legal study coming in, really giving toolkits and benchmarks. So combined together, I think this is really a potent, work that can scale up factoring and supply chain finance globally.
Qamar, thank you. We're very excited. I mean, this is really a trifecta, as we say. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.